Let's discuss with Republican Congressman Pete Sessions of Texas. He sits on the Financial Services and Oversight Committees, and he's a co-chair of the House DOGE Caucus. Congressman, thank you for being here. You held a town hall there over the weekend. You had one of your own. There were certainly some there who support DOGE, but much of the pressure came from constituents of yours who were expressing grievances about how DOGE cuts could impact them and why Congress isn't doing more about perceived overreach by Trump. What are you going to do with the feedback you received at that town hall?
Thank you very much. First of all, I'd say anybody that was there would have disagreed with the article that was in the New York Times. It was a very thoughtful, articulate meeting where people expressed their views. I provided them information, data, and understanding about where we're trying to head. And it really was not only quite civil, I think that every person that was there felt like it was worth their time. And so I'd like to say that I do recognize that the American people have questions and they do need answers, and we owe them those answers. But it is certainly one that finds itself and lends itself to not all the answers are necessarily available right now. So feel free, any question that you've got, I'm ready.
What did you learn? You know, it's important, as you know, to get outside of the bubble in D.C., go talk to your constituents. And what did you learn from talking to them and some of the concerns that they have about what's happening in Washington?
Well, thank you. I go back to Waco, Texas, or the district every single weekend. I meet with people on a regular basis. We have discussions, talks. My office is very open. People can email me. I call people back. I write them. The feedback that is coming is one that is very understandable. When a new administration, whether it be President Obama, whether it be President Trump, whether it be President Biden, has an agenda that they would choose to then play out. President Biden had a very quick start. I think President Trump has a very quick start. So the things that are occurring are not always apparent to everybody, but our country is faced a change. A change was voted for Donald Trump to bring some of those changes. One of them is our physical, our financial nature that the country is engaged in. We are going to, as a result of not just, we think, the American people, but a demand by Congress, we are going to have government workers come back to work. Whoops, that's square one fight right off the bat. And we're still engaged in that battle. The president, I think, openly offered anybody that did not want to come back to work, he gave them 10 months where they could then admit that they did not want to come back and they would be paid. I felt like that was not only the right thing to do, it was very benevolent. Even that is being fought right now. So we are going through a circumstance where we need government workers. So out of the Office of Personnel Management, people are receiving emails saying, please give us an idea about what your job is. Please feel free to tell us that. And agencies are now saying, don't respond back. Well, that's the wrong thing. Just because you tell us what you do and what importance that is not an indication that we would not respect that. OPM is needing that information. OMB
so you think like Kash Patel, I mean, some of these people saying that are people that Trump put in these agencies. You think that people like him are wrong to say, don't respond right now, we have our own process in play?
Well, I would simply say if an official from the government, Office of Personnel Management, OPM, is asking for data and information, I would think that they could respond back very favorably and say, let me tell you who I am and what my job is and the importance of my job. And here's what I achieved last week. So, of course that would be important to do. I don't offer any feedback about an agency head about whether they said do or don't do that. I would say an outside organization other than, in this case, the Department of Justice ask a question, I would respond back.
And some of these agencies believe, some of the officials there believe it's usurping their chain of command. But there are, President Trump has made clear he supports this effort. I want to dive in a little bit more to the impact of these federal employees in just a moment. But I want to ask you something, because you brought up, constituents get upset from different administrations and what their policies are, and this is in line with that. During the Biden administration, you supported legislation that would have mandated more oversight on Biden's executive orders, which you said were causing, quote, out of control inflation. And the White House so far has touted that they have had more executive orders now compared to Biden and other administrations. Given the intensity with which Trump is using executive actions, should he be subject to that same oversight?
He is subject to that oversight. The difference is that what President Biden did was tell employees to stay at home, open up the border, change dramatically America's security posture by allowing the lack of rule of law. This is, I think, what might be the opposite, and that is you got to come back to work. You need to tell us what you do. You need to be a professional and responsible, and if you do not want to come back to work, just let us know. We need to know what we're working with. As you know, over any given 3-year period of time, the government through GAO is dealing with $1.7 trillion worth of waste, fraud, and abuse. We need government workers back at work. We need databases that correspondingly provide information.
I mean, they've already been ordered back to come to work.
That's why.
But with 6,600 federal workers in your district, what are you telling them? How concerned are they with losing their jobs? What impact this could have on them and their families? We've talked to many, including veterans. I spoke to one this morning who said, I've had a lifetime of service to this country. With my military service, I found purpose working for the federal government. I've only gotten good reviews, and now I'm laid off. What do you say to people like that and veterans? Should they be laid off?
I don't really know which agencies. I know that, like the FBI is going to reassign people. But I think that if someone were to send you a question, if you're in the VA, if you're in the 17th District of Texas, you should respond back and correspondingly send our office. We're attempting to comply. I would like my job. I'm back at work, and here's what I do to perform. And then we will make that determination of trying to work with the agencies to come back and say, we believe these are critical jobs. I believe that they are, and I believe the VA is very important. Mm-hmm. And we will be very pleased to engage on their behalf. But let's go to the top side. The top side is that our government is filled with at least 100,000 people that would wish to leave. Once that is known and understood, that will offer some clarity as to how many would be working on a job to perform that. They still have an obligation to perform a job that needs to be done, and that is what I, as Congressman, would want them to do.
But do you think veterans in particular, again, you're a big supporter of veterans, do you think those veterans who had good reviews, who had military service and found purpose in their service in the federal government, they should be laid off? What do you think should happen to veterans in particular?
Well, you're asking a question not knowing. I don't know enough about necessarily the VA. The VA, we need to, and we will get in and do our oversight. How many people in the VA said, did they want to leave? What are those critical jobs? But you will also recall that the Veterans Administration completely ran out of money, and they had to have $15 billion added to them last September because the money had been absconded with and went to help the border and illegals coming to this country, at least $15 billion. So one would question some wisdom, and they're trying to make a determination, how many workers do we need, and what are those advantages going to be?
Right, and you're correct about the $15 billion, and on the veterans, it wasn't just at the VA. I spoke to a veteran this morning from USAID who was expressing the sentiment. I've spoken to others as well. I wish we had more time, Congressman Pete Sessions. I appreciate the thoughtful discussion. Thank you, and I look forward to having you back on the show.
Yes, ma'am.